welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do a really quick video today just on maintenance day. So you're going to have to be stuck with me for this particular one because Mavis is inside making our latest YouTube video. So this is what we do maybe once or probably once a week when we're on the road. We're stuck here, or not stuck here, we're stopped here at Broome. Actually love Broome, but we're sitting here having a bit of a quiet day. It's hot. It's the end of May, but it's probably 36 degrees, so we're just having a bit of a low-key one. We're going to go down to Cable Beach and watch the sunset this afternoon. So whilst Danielle's in making the next YouTube video, I thought I'd run you through the maintenance that I've just done on the car and the van. It's all relatively basic stuff, but I'll also show you through the tools and the gear that we travel with just to make this sort of stuff possible. So when traveling, I just carry a range of things with me, 3/4 of which I never hope I have to use, but it's really helpful to have it just in case you do need it. So quickly through my big toolbox here, I've got a 6-ton hydraulic jack, probably massively over-engineered for the 1.5 ton per wheel that you have to lift with the van, but a couple of reasons. It's easy to get the van up with the higher rated jack, and it also gives us a little bit of more vertical height than say a 4 or a 2-ton jack would give us. So I carry the 6-ton. It's not that much heavier, but it's just the way it is. Heavy duty grease, I'll show you where that goes a little bit later. This No More Gaps is really cool. It doesn't need a chalking gun. So, and it's a bit smaller than most of your Sika products and those sorts of things, so I just carry that for the emergency sort of sickering that I need to do. Some isopropyl alcohol just for cleaning and even disinfecting wounds and those sorts of things. Drill bit, a bit of this tape. This is important when you've got a bump out bed van like we have. We've already used that to patch up some of the rubber seal that I managed to split. Just assorted screws, a spare Anderson plug. A bit weird to carry a spare Anderson plug, but you'll never know when you need it, and if you need it in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to be happy. Zip ties. It's currently holding my number plate on at the moment, but zip ties are great. Spare set of tire deflators. I use my Camp Boss adjustable ones now, but it's helpful to have my old Storms just in case I lose something. Found that on a campsite at Bandy. Fits our toilet, so hopefully I never lose it, but there's a spare there. A multimeter, bearing punch, and just some spanners there as well. This toolbox is actually really super small and compact, but really good for what we are doing on our travels. So it's an automotive toolkit. It's Tool Pro by brand, comes from the Super Cheap's generic brand, but I picked this up half price before we left for the trip. It's got a range of sockets, Allen keys, bit heads, and a few other bits and pieces, and then the wrenches up the top, spanners and those sorts of things. You would have seen I had spanners in my other kit. I like my ratcheting ring heads better than your standard spanners, but a few different types of pliers and side cutters and those sorts of things. But this kit is absolutely awesome. As I said, it's really compact, doesn't take up much space in the back of the ute, but it's pretty much got everything I need in it. And in my other spares kit over here, you can see some spare bearings for the trailer. I think I mentioned I had a bearing punch in there as well, just in case I have to do. Hopefully I never do have to do any side of the road work, but you never know. Bearing seal, some assorted fuses, spare shackles, extra pegs, hose clamps, shrink wrap, and Cruise Master, the DO35 hitch wrench, some more shackles and that sort of thing. So again, you know, just having spares of this probably seems like extra weight and those sorts of things, but it is handy to have. In here I've got a range of different tapes, some WD, dust covers for your Anderson plugs, which come in really handy, degreaser, another big fuse kit, also got brake fluid, Yep, brake fluid, and Danielle cryovacs these up for me, and it may seem again like a little bit of overkill, but I tell you, if that breaks and runs through your toolkit, you're going to have a mess everywhere. But the cryovac, if it doesn't break, is perfect for holding that stuff together. Just some molly grease. I use that on the big bolts on the back for the spare wheel holders on the van. Arrangement of ocky straps, certain amount of different glues, so plastic welds, tapes and glue can be your friend. Oh, some spare parts for the van, a gas strut and those sorts of things. So the other spares that I travel with is I always have a spare air filter element with me. I'm particularly doing a lot of corrugated and dirt roads. They come in super handy. My old rough country dual compressor, I've used that probably 20 times so far on the trip when you're constantly airing up and airing down, and it hasn't missed a beat. It's actually been really good quality and really good value. I think it was around 220 bucks, and you know, the equivalent ARB product's about $900. It is a bit of a pain in the butt to pull out and connect to the battery, but to be honest, it's worked really well. So that's sort of the spare kit. I travel with a blower, just a little workshop blower. I had to fix that up with the race tape earlier because it's been rattled around a bit in the back of the ute on the corrugations, and it's broken the plastic housing. So I guess let's have a look at, actually, sorry, before I do that, I carry two different types of lubricants. People have different, there's so many things on the market. I use Lanox sort of as a anti-corrosion lubricant, both for the nuts and bolts around the van, stabilise the legs, the cross arms on the pop top and those sorts of things. I also use, and so Lanox is a natural based sort of lambswool product. Works really well for me. What it does do though is it does have dust and dirt stick to it a little bit. So I also use just a WD silicone spray. It doesn't attract dirt and dust like the Lanox does. And by the way, the Lanox, when it attracts dust, makes it easy to clean off as well. But I use this for the fridge rail slides and the tunnel boot slides and those sorts of things. So when I need to tidy these up, which I've already done on this, I just use a WD silicone spray for those, the kitchen runners, the fridge runners, and the fridge runner in the back of the car. So let's have a look at the general maintenance that I do on the van, just on a regular basis, particularly if I'm heading off-road, which we are in about a week's time. We're doing the Gibb River Road. So first thing that I do, I clean up these bolts for the spare wheel holders, and I've used a mono grease on this just to tidy them up and make sure that everything's well lubed and that there's no issues with this spare wheel holder. The last thing I want to do is lose my spare wheels while I'm on the road. So that's part number one. Stabilise the legs. I like to give them a really good clean up, so I wipe down with a cloth and then just hit them with the Lanox again. These mechanisms here, the bolts and those sorts of things, you can see there's a tiny bit of corrosion on them, so I've hit them with the Lanox as well. I always carry a torque wrench with me, so I use a torque wrench to make sure that I've torqued up these wheel nuts. I've done a post about this in the past, but 140, 145 Newton meters of torque, just to make sure that the wheel nuts are regularly checked. I check mine if I haven't, so we did the wheel bearings in Fremantle, so I checked them probably at 100, 200 and 500 Ks. Now I try to do them every 1000 Ks, but if we're doing a day in Carragini or a day on the Gibb River Road or those sorts of things, I actually check it every single afternoon when we're finished. The other thing that I do when we pull up after a long day of travel is I actually put my hand on this hub just to feel if there's any excessive heat coming through there, because that's a good quick indicator of how your wheel bearings are faring. So if you feel like really hot to touch or excessive heat when you pull up after a day's driving, it's a really good indicator that either the grease and or the bearings are starting to get into a bit of trouble, and they either need repacking or probably actually swapping out. As hot topic with these sorts of things, I always use Coil bearings or Timken bearings. Coil if I can, Timken if it's an option, but always make sure that I've got Japanese branded bearings in there. just for peace of mind. The metal's better quality, they handle the heat very differently to Chinese metal, and you know, safety first. If you have a wheel come off, as some people have, it's pretty catastrophic, so you need to be pretty careful with that sort of stuff. There's just grease nipples there too. If I was doing a full service on the van, you know, doing wheel bearings and those sorts of things, I'd also make sure that I repack the grease, pump the grease into the grease nipples there on the independent suspension swing arms. There's a couple other points as well on the van where you would use the grease guns. So on your DO35 hitch, I've just given it a bit of a clean up, hit it with a bit of Lanox as well, but you've got a grease nipple there. Just got to make sure that you keep that nice and greased up. Things to keep your eye on when you're on the road, make sure these nuts, there's only 4 nuts and bolts here that are actually attaching your van to the hitch to the back of your car, so you need to make sure that these nuts are really nicely torqued up. I think it's a 19mm piece for that as well, but I'd regularly just check the tension on those nuts. Check your handbrake. I'm not going to take it off because the van's landed and set up at the moment, but I have adjusted that within the last few thousand kilometers. Just undo a few of the nuts there, retension it, and then lock it back into place. And lastly, a lot of people have you don't actually think about this until you have problems with it, but make sure your rhino rack or your roof rack is actually sitting nicely and tightly on the roof of your car. It is one of those things that's synonymous for becoming loose on corrugated and dusty dirt roads, so make sure that all of your attachments and also your racks and racks are completely you know, tightened up and ready to go for your next adventure. And also on your jockey wheel, there's a grease nipple where you just keep the grease up to it and it will look after you really well. So generally just walking around the van, any exposed stainless steel or gal parts, hit them with a bit of Lanox. I also hit the regulator and valve and those sorts of things just to keep it nice and neat and tidy. And the cross arms up there, I have given a good wipe down and also hit them with the Lanox just to keep them nice and lubed up. So let's go over and have a look at what I do with the car. So again, I don't do this as frequently as I do with the van, but I do it with the car, particularly if we've come off some heavy corrugations like we have recently in Caravan, and then secondly heading onto some heavy corrugations like we are with the Gibb River Road. So torque wrench again to about 140-145 Newton meters of torque on those nuts. I know it sounds like a bit arduous work and those sorts of things, but making sure that your points of contact to the road are well secured is a pretty good idea. Just a quick visual inspection. I always make sure I check the radiator fluid, also check my brake fluid levels and those sorts of things. I've only had the car serviced about 5,000 k's ago, so you know, nothing too much to worry about. Fill up my water squirters, check the condition of my battery terminals, check my oil. And I've done all of that earlier today. The other thing that I do, particularly doing a lot of dirt and dust roads, Pilbara, Caravan and Kimberley conditions sort of suggest that you need to keep a really close eye on your air filter element. Now I've already checked it today, I pulled it all apart, it'll make this video too long, but I have done the air filter element as well, and that is all ready to go. That's my spare now, so I grab the compressor out, just blow it out, and it's better than having a dirty air filter. And even though it's an older one, it's been a little bit reconditioned, and I've also got a new one in the back of the tub ready to go. So I guess that's a pretty quick rundown of what we do from a maintenance perspective, what tools we carry when we're on the road, and what we do on a regular basis, probably every 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers. And as I sort of said through the video, if it's not, if you're driving on really heavy corrugations, really dusty conditions and those sorts of things, we do it. Some of the essential things like your wheel nut tensions and those sorts of things on a daily basis, just when you pull up at camp and having a beer in the afternoon. So hopefully you found that helpful. Again, hopefully I never have to use 3/4 of the bits and pieces that we're carrying on the road, but you know, you never know. So sing out. As always, guys, we love the interactivity on our videos, the questions that we get sent through. So don't hesitate to fire off some questions or send us a direct message. We always do our best, if we're not off grid, to get back to you. And we love the feedback to keep coming. So cheers, guys. Here comes Maybe from the laundromat. How'd the washing go, mate?
Fine.
Oh,
Stop
good.
following me.